3 years ago, I made the scariest decision of my life. I chose to pursue the dream of becoming a self-employed photographer and videographer. And the moment that I decided to finally make that jump, let me tell you, my life completely changed. So the big question, when and how did I make this a reality for myself? Well, in this video, I'll be sharing with you my freelance journey and how I was able to make this transition happen. If you're considering starting your own business or simply curious to know about my journey, my hope is that I'm able to give you some helpful insight before you make the jump. So without further ado, vámonos. Hello my beautiful people and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Carol and I love to create content with things related to photo, video, faith, and lifestyle. So if that's of any interest to you, consider subscribing to help your girl out. But anyway, today I'm here to talk about escaping the 9 to 5.
I gotta get out of here. I think I'm gonna lose it.
I want to be able to provide you with a little bit of my journey and 5 things you should consider before making the full jump. A popular question I often get is, Carol, when did you know it was the right time to jump? Now, before I begin to tell you about my journey, I'd like to start off with my first point, which is you need to know there's no formula or one-way route to do this. Everyone is different, and as I share my journey with you, it doesn't mean you need to follow the way that I did things. But there are suggestions in which you should consider or just think about before you make this decision. So, to give you a little bit of a background, I studied graphic design and drawing at Biola University. I really enjoyed drawing, but because I felt like there weren't many options career-wise, I decided to go with the safer route, which was graphic design. During my college days, I dabbled with different mediums, and because a lot of photography was involved in graphic design, I decided I wanted to experiment with cameras. It was my junior year of college when I bought my first camera, which was my Canon T3i. Man, I loved that camera. I took it everywhere with me. I tried to shoot with it as much as I could. Fast forward my senior year, I actually had to prepare for an art show in order to graduate. I remember this was a huge deal. I'd been preparing for this show my entire senior year, so I wanted to create a quick little teaser to help promote it. And here's the video. After creating this video, I vividly remember this was the moment my love for videography grew. I realized I fell in love with the new medium that really helped me connect on a much deeper emotional level. I loved how I could have vision to capture something, capture it, edit, and make it come to life. Now, during this time, I was posting on social media just for fun, but friends and family began to take notice, and that's when I started getting asked for certain photo video services. I remember people would ask, hey, do you do portrait shoots or family shoots? And I remember I'd say, no, but since it was fun for me, I just did a lot of it for free in the beginning. And little by little, project after project, I started to develop my own experience, which then led me to start charging. So this brings me to my second point, a way you should consider going freelance if you ask yourself, are you already getting paid to do what you love doing? If there are people willing to pay for your services, that's a really good sign. It means people are already bringing value to the work that you do. If you're truly passionate about what you do, it will show. Others will take notice. And the best kind of advertisement is word of mouth, recommendation from others. You do a good job with one client, that client recommends another, and it's just this ripple effect. After graduating from college, I was then hired as a graphic web designer at a publishing company. Man, was this job difficult. This was my first official job, and I was getting paid minimum wage, and I had to learn about HTML coding. And let me tell you guys, I sucked. So much so that I guess I was too slow and I was fired after 6 months.
You're fired.
Guys, I was devastated. I felt like a complete failure. But fast forward a couple months and God totally came through for me with a new job that was much better pay and was a much better fit. I was hired as a graphic designer for the Salvation Army, specifically to design a contemporary magazine called Caring Magazine. And man, did I love that job. I worked there for about 2.5, almost 3 years. But mind you, during this time period, I was doing side projects on the weekends. I had different projects such as photo shoots, promo videos for other businesses. The more I worked, the more I started to build a reputation. And at this time was even when I started my wedding videography business. And there even came a point where I literally had no weekends off. That's when I really started to consider whether I could actually make it as a self-employed photographer and videographer, since I had most of my weekends already booked. I remember I was seeking advice from others who were freelance and in a similar industry. I'd ask them how they did it, how did they jump, how did they make it possible. I even remember sitting with a family friend one day and we literally went over my living expenses and budget to see how much I needed to make a living from my passion. So this leads me to my third tip. Calculate your monthly budget to give you an idea of how much you actually need to make. Once you know how much you need to make, this then now becomes your goal starting point. Then moving on to our fourth point. So for the big question, when are you actually ready? And the answer is you're ready when you see you are making enough money to financially support yourself.
That's all it is.
That's the answer.
That's it?
That's it.
When you see enough money coming through to help you cover your expenses, that's when you know, okay, I can now consider making the jump. But wait, before you go jumping now, as a freelancer, this can get tricky because unlike when you're employed, you don't have that stable income coming in every 2 weeks like you normally would. So there's a few things you can do. The safest way to jump would be to save 3 to 6 months of your income in order to provide that cushion for yourself. That way you relieve yourself of any kind of financial stress in the beginning, just in case you're having a hard time finding work. But to be honest, I didn't do it this way. The second way you can do things, which is what I ended up doing, is to consider having retainer clients. These are clients that are, think of it, subscribe to you on a monthly basis. You come up with a contract and for a time period. For example, if you're a wedding videographer, you would create a monthly payment for your couple. Let's say you charge $2,000 for a wedding package. You then split up your couple's payments into a 6-month plan or 3-month plan or however, and now you know you'll be getting a certain amount for the next 6 months. That's just a small example, but having retainer clients is honestly one of the less stressful ways you can do instead of waiting for work. Freelancing is not for everyone. Although being self-employed has its perks, as far as time management, there's a lot of behind the scenes work you'll need to be aware of. For example, saving your own taxes, keeping track of your expenses, disciplining yourself to have your own savings as well, health insurance, all those things. Like, you are now your own boss, meaning all the responsibility for your business is on you. If I'm being completely honest with you, being self-employed, you might find yourself working more than what you did as an employee, but the reward is high. I mean, you're doing what you love to do, which leads me to my next point. Before making a jump, you need to check yourself. What I mean by this, you really need to love and evaluate your passion. It has to be strong enough to endure through the hard days you're going to have. You need to be able to love this so much you don't mind working overtime for it. You don't mind staying up late to finish up work. I can honestly tell you guys that freelance has been a roller coaster for sure. There have been months that have been amazing, but reality is it's a roller coaster because it's not always stable. Like I said, the reward is high. I get to do what I love. I get to do it in my own schedule. It's honestly an adventure, and I feel so blessed to do what I'm doing today. Hey guys, really quick. So I ended up asking you guys on Instagram if you guys had any questions. So I just wanted to make sure I answered those for you guys. The first question was, when did you decide to jump? So I decided to jump when I knew, like I already talked about previously, when I knew that I was getting enough money to sustain my living expenses. Everything ended up working out because my full-time job was actually moving at the time and I was no longer able to commute. So I had asked if I could go contract-based, meaning this would now place me as a self-employed contract worker. And that meant I would lose all my benefits. I would no longer be a full-time employee for them. So I ended up having them as a retainer client, and I also already had about 2 or 3 other businesses that I was working with. So that's why it made sense for me to finally jump, because I already had those retainer clients lined up. Did you have a plan B? Honestly, no. I wanted to make sure that I was able to safely jump, so by having those retainer clients, I knew, okay, it's now or never, like this is my time to jump. Did you rent gear before owning? I actually ended up investing, so I actually took out a loan to invest into new gear. And most of you probably won't do it this way, but I just believed in myself and I really wanted to invest in the equipment, because I knew that if I had better equipment other than my, beginner DSLR, the Canon T3i was great for me in the beginning, but I then upgraded to a full frame camera because I thought, you know what, if I want people to take me seriously, I need to invest in myself. And this is another thing, if you guys really are serious about your passion, I would really recommend you guys investing not only to tools, equipment, but also to courses. I took a few courses. I took a few videography courses that were provided online, countless of hours on YouTube, learning, So to answer your question, I only rented a few lenses, for example, when I was doing weddings at the time, just for one-time events where I knew I needed it. But for the most part, I did not rent as much because I wanted to invest into having my own gear. And it's definitely paid off. How did I find the right camera for myself? So I actually made a video on this. So if you are interested, you can see that video. My first DSLR camera, one of my friends at Biola recommended the camera to me. He was more tech savvy. He told me that one, and I'm so grateful because that was a great starting camera. How many shoots did you need to have a month as base in order for you to make the jump? So again, I didn't really have a certain amount of shoots. I had a certain amount of retainer clients to help me make that jump. I would say, as far as like having video shoots or photo shoots, those were extra income because I didn't really depend on them fully. What I depended on was the packages that I would offer my clients. Well guys, this now concludes my video on 5 things to consider before escaping your 9-to-5. I hope I was able to give you some helpful insight or things to think about before making a big decision like this. Know that there is no specific formula and you might go about things differently. There's really no right or wrong answer, but just be smart about it. Don't set yourself up for failure either. You need to make sure your ship is somewhat stable already before you consider jumping. But know that you can make this a reality for yourself too. It's just going to take a lot of hard work, determination, and discipline. So guys, if this indeed was helpful, please consider subscribing. Please leave me your comments below whether you yourself are a freelance or if you're wanting to be freelance. I would love to hear from y'all. I'll see you next time.